it's more just a chat around this theme because the topic of conversation is enormous. Consumerism, the fashion industry. The fashion industry is undergoing a huge transformation. First of all, we need to agree on what we mean by fashion industry. Fashion industry is a structured industry, structured in many different segments. And when I speak about fashion industry, my point of view is that of the top segments of fashion in terms of price and quality, very close to luxury or even luxury, while I am not so conversant in fast fashion, where we are at the opposite, low prices and big quantities. Nevertheless, even the segment of the fashion industry I work in is undergoing a huge change. First of all, in general, in top fashion, in luxury fashion, sales are not great. The world is changing. There's a lot of uncertainty. New generations have a different approach to life, Gen Z particularly, and a different approach also to shopping behavior when it comes to fashion. They buy a lot of second-hand goods, a lot of, as we say today in fashion, fashion embellishes everything. So second-hand, you call it now pre-loved. Which is it's the same thing, but it's said in a best way. Vintage, that's another beautiful way to say that. They care about recycling, about extending the life cycle of products, and so all these, along with the uncertainty in which we live, and along with the fact that some big markets for this fashion are actually more difficult now because of the general geopolitical situation, sales are down. In the moment in which sales are down and consumers are changing their patterns of behavior, the industry is heavily engaged in stepping forward towards sustainability, which means in doing more in terms of emissions, reducing the impact on biodiversity, reducing the impacts on nature, on the natural capital in terms of water, use of chemicals, in terms of better practices to respect human rights at work, and in terms of, as I said before, circularity. So on one side, the general market for this kind of goods is going a period of ups and downs. On the other side, the industry is trying to invest more while the market is down in sustainability. You understand that this is a difficult situation. On one side, sales tend to be down. On the other side, investments are growing. This is not an ideal scenario. So that's the first thing to consider. An industry that is, notwithstanding the difficulties, trying to do some relevant steps in terms of sustainability, and consumers who are assessing these steps and assessing the general scenario of the world in which we live to decide about their future shopping behavior, shopping patterns. On the other side, we have a general problem. The industry is lagging behind the schedule in terms of reducing the emissions. We all know that we need to cut emissions at least by 50% before 2030, all GHG greenhouse gas emissions, not only carbon ones, everything. About some emission modeling done by the Textile Exchange has proven that we are lagging behind the schedule, and maybe we are not able to get to the point of a reduction of 50% by 2030. This, along with the growing uncertainty linked to climate change and to extreme events that we witness also over these weeks, over in these days, all around the world, which are clearly linked to climate change, poses a big question mark on sustainability. And this question mark is heavily felt also by consumers. The second point is that we keep on witnessing in the global supply chain of this industry all over the world. You know, the fashion industry has a supply chain that spans across 65 countries in the global south, that is everywhere in the global north. So it's a huge supply chain. We keep on witnessing violations of human rights and of international labor law, to the point that the legislator, the regulator, in many places, first of all in the European Union, is stepping forward, is doing some bold steps in order to crash on it and to make it more difficult if it's not impossible. So the new regulation, European regulation on forced labor, goes exactly in this direction. That's a thing that is hurting a lot global consumering about this industry. Consumers are more and more upset to hear that. They do not understand rightly why we need to hear these kind of things in this supply chain when we have a human rights framework, human rights bill, when we have international labor law, when everybody is a member, every country of the world is a member of the International Labor Office, and therefore it is bound to implement international labor law. And this is another issue with this kind of mentality, and with how consumers see and the general public see this industry. On the other hand, I heard some in the previous panel, somebody before me was speaking about the Corporate Sustainability Directive of the European Union and so on. They were speaking in Greek, but Greek, as we know, is the most beautiful language in the world, so you understand something. And especially for an Italian, it's the most beautiful language in the world. So I wanted to close with a point. If we want to keep on working in this industry, we must, in the industry at the level of management, top management, middle management, and in the world of consumers, when they request to this industry to be sustainable, we need to all transition towards a practice, a best practice, which is envisaged in European legislation, but also in the GRI Global Reporting Initiative standards and so on. Actually, I'm part of the working group of the GRI that is preparing the new standard on corporate sustainability reporting for textile and garments. And this practice is ESG due diligence. Yeah. Sustainability due diligence. Sustainability due diligence is the first step when you want to report according to the ESRS, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, when you want to report according to the GRI standards. Whatever you do in terms of corporate sustainability reporting, you have to start from due diligence, which is to say, you have to assess your sustainability risks in all these domains: climate, biodiversity, impact on natural capital, human rights, circularity, and you have to adopt a strategy to reduce your impacts, to mitigate them, or to eliminate them, or to prevent them. And this must be communicated transparently. So that's the step, because of what all I've said before, which is needed today to address the sustainability dimension of this industry and how consumers see the evolution of this industry. So in terms of consumerism, the first step, what will define the future of consumerism related to this industry, is exactly its capacity to carry out regularly as a normal, ordinary, everyday management tool ESG due diligence, and to communicate
Simone,
what the industry does on it.
Mille grazie. I'm going to stop you there because you have an eloquence which is almost equal to that of the Greeks as well. So I'm very impressed.